in here. First, I want to introduce myself. I'm Maureen Cathy. I'm an associate director here in our Business Career Services office, one of our career coaches. And we are really excited to present our last workshop in our C2C, our College to Career series. This one is a world of opportunities for business students. First, I want to definitely thank our panelists for joining us, sharing of their own free time and their thoughts with all of you here today. We also are recording this session. Not everyone is able to join us in person, but luckily we record these so that they are available on our YouTube channel that you can access from the Business Career Services website. And so you can go back and refresh and rewatch some things or share that information with your friends so that they can see all this great advice as well. I do know today seems to be the day where everywhere I turn, there was an advertisement for some other event happening this evening. Opportunities abound on April 12th, apparently. So I do appreciate those of you who chose our event to get some great information, and we're able to make that happen. Just as a reminder, since this is our last event, our last workshop of the semester, things are winding down in terms of those, but you can always make an appointment with your career coach through Handshake. You can always drop a resume on the website to have that reviewed. We have a ton of resources available on our website, as well as our YouTube channel. So there's lots of opportunities, particularly for any of those of you who may be at that point of graduating or trying to figure out what those next steps are and want to do that before the end of the semester. So definitely reach out to us. But I'm going to jump right in and let you know that this panel this evening represents a variety of different maybe paths or things that could take place with a business degree. I want to give the caveat that I occasionally will use the term alternate or maybe atypical or something like that path. I realize that is not the case, that not everybody thinks that these paths are alternative or atypical, but a lot of our students in the College of Business maybe come in with a mindset of thinking about that kind of picture of corporation, accounting firm, corporation, business, maybe starting their own business, those kinds of paths. And there are lots of opportunities, not just those represented here today, for you to utilize your degree and your skill sets. And so that's hopefully what our focus will be this evening. We have some questions set that I'm going to ask our panelists. I've spotlighted our panelists, so they should be at the top of your screen if you're using gallery view, or should come up as speaker view when they're speaking. And these questions, not every panelist needs to feel like they need to answer every question, but we'll kind of round robin things. I'll try and maybe start something with a question to someone specific, and then for our panelists, if you feel like you also have something to add, please do so. But again, we'll work through some of our questions and then definitely have time at the end for student questions. If you have a question you'd like to put into the chat, we'll check that out. Also at the end, we'll open it up for you just to unmute and ask your questions as well. So again, I want to thank our panelists. I'm going to let them kind of do some self-introductions, but we have Captain Porter Lockhart, who is a training officer and instructor in our Department of Military Science and Leadership, or ROTC, and with the U.S. Army. We have David Richardson, Director of Finance at Wine to Water, a nonprofit that is here locally. And we have Boris Salvador Maldonado, Enterprise Risk Manager here at App State. So let's let you guys introduce yourself a little bit more further than I can. So I'm going to have each of you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about maybe your educational background and what you currently do, and kind of the path that led you there. So Porter, you're first on my screen, so I'm gonna start with you if that's okay.
Thanks a lot, Maureen. Hey, so my name is Porter Lockhart. I'm one of the instructors here in the ROTC department at App State. I graduated from the University of Tennessee in 2013, and I got a degree in supply chain management. Didn't decide to use that directly in the Army, and so I commissioned into the infantry, and I'm still an active duty infantry officer, and took this assignment last fall to be an instructor here. So really, I teach juniors and seniors. I really kind of more of a teach, coach, and mentor college students on public speaking, teamwork, developing their confidence and communication skills, and then specifically tactics and leadership, and then also decision making. So I'm over here. I'm one of the guys you probably see doing PT early in the morning sometimes, and run around on campus. But that's what I do here, and ultimately try to help them reach their potential and make them a successful Army officer.
Wonderful, thank you. David, do you want to go next?
Yes. Yeah, I'm David Richardson. I'm from North Carolina. I grew up over in Greenville, and then I went to undergrad at NC State. I got a marketing degree and worked for a couple years. I started working with Chick-fil-A corporate, I guess my freshman year of college, and continued that for a few years after. So I was with Chick-fil-A corporate for about 7 years. And a buddy of mine, he's a professor at ECU. He convinced me to move forward with an MBA. So I applied a few places in North Carolina and thought Appalachian State would be the best fit for me. So I came up here to Boone. It's probably been like 4 or 5 years now. So when I was here in Boone, I was getting my MBA and just kind of had a perspective change during that process, and found out about Wine to Water here in town. I actually started interning for Wine to Water while I was still getting my degree. And then once I graduated, I was offered a full-time position here at Wine to Water, and I've just kind of worked my way up throughout the four years I've been with the organization to where I'm now the director of finance here at Wine to Water, and we do clean water work internationally. So it's pretty fun.
Great, thank you. All right, Boris.
Hey guys, my name is Boris Salvador. I'm a first generation college student, graduated from App in 2016 with a degree in risk management and finance. And I went out to work in the banking sector for about 5 years. Went with BB&T, went through their leadership development program. And about that 5-year mark, I was really looking for a change in my career. Wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in the insurance industry or get out of it altogether. And that's when this position kind of came into my radar. And actually, I didn't jump at it right away. It took me a little while. Like I said, I was still debating whether to stay in insurance or not. And I've been real happy with it. One, just to be back at my alma mater, but then also to be able to practice risk management in a different capacity than you normally get to do as a entry-level or even mid-level broker, where you're really pushed to sell, and or as an account manager per se. What we do here, that word enterprise is something we really like to emphasize. It's not just to make the name sound complicated or fancy, but it's truly a risk management tactic that takes a look at the entity as a whole, and really I feel like helps bring to light all of the things that could potentially get in the way of the university meeting its objectives. And so that's what we're in the really developing stages of creating right now. This the ERM initiative was something that the UNC system had required about 3 years ago, and App State has been working to try to develop that. I came in about 8 months ago, and I'm a team of 1 right now, but that'll be growing here hopefully by the summertime.
Wonderful. Thank you. So we've got some higher education, military and higher education, nonprofit, all kinds of different avenues here represented today. But maybe first a little bit more kind of about you and your path in terms of if you could address what sparked your interest in pursuing kind of a role maybe within your industry versus, you know, a different path. Some of you were on different paths and then now have come into these spaces. So if you could maybe address that a little bit, Boris. I know you kind of started to do that with some of the things you've already mentioned, but I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add before we jump to someone else with that. But
You saying just how we ended up where we are, essentially, and what got us into that?
Yeah, like if there was something specific that maybe made you change your mind from a different role you were in, or sparked your interest in kind of a different type of industry or field.
So when I came to school at App, I originally started as an international business major, and it must have been around my sophomore year. It was probably still the case, and was just exploring different avenues on campus. And a big thing for me at that time, just to get right to the point, was how to pay for school. And the College of Business, of course, has great resources, but when you get to the insurance department with the Brantley Center and all, they just have a world of resources, both financial and just in their staffing, the talent that they bring in, the folks that they bring in externally. And I wasn't sold on it right away. If you read an interview I did when I got back here, I described that I used to, and I still do, view insurance people as, you know, that kind of used car salesman trying to sell you something perhaps that you don't always need. And that's the case in any industry, right? It's not just insurance, but insurance has a bad rap for that because people have bad experiences with insurance, whether they understand it or not. But for me, as a student, you know, in my 19, 20, trying to figure out how I was going to pay for the next semester, that's what did it for me. RMI had the money I needed, and it sounded like something I could maybe grow into, and something perhaps I would like. And so I did explore that and went into it, like I said, for 5 years. And ultimately, this was not something I had foreseen or planned. It just kind of happened, and I'm really happy about how it's worked out. So anybody that's out there, specifically students that don't have that clear path outlined for them, like I said, I was a first generation college student, and I have somebody in my family I could look to and have like, oh, if you start here, you can expect to be here in 5 years, and then this could be your goal after that. I didn't have any of that. And so I know a lot of students, first generation or not, they might be going through that themselves. And I would just encourage you to, one, maintain a good network. That has been the number one piece for me. And even that has a negative connotation. That sounds self-interested. And at least in my opinion, when I've heard somebody use that comment before, it sounds like somebody going out, giving out business cards and just looking at how can others serve me. But that's not at all the case. If you go out and build genuine relationships with folks just for the sake of getting to know them, what that did for me was when I came time in my life, and it hasn't just happened once, you know, it's different reasons that have brought me here, or where I needed to seek counsel from a committee of people that I felt had the wisdom to provide that. That, man, when I was at that 5-year mark of my career and I needed to change, that's who I went to. And, you know, it wasn't like right away, oh, here's this position for you. But no, it wasn't anything like that. But it's just, it's great to have a group of folks that you can go to and say, hey, this is what I'm doing right now. These are the skills I possess, but this is kind of what I'd enjoy and what I maybe would like to do, but I don't know what that is. I don't know what that job title is. I don't know if one exists. Can you tell me about what you know? And I think that was a key portion for me. Talking to folks, I would have never guessed that at 27, I'd be have the opportunity to work in this role. And so it just goes to show you never really know, and sometimes that can turn out to be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. David, you kind of mentioned that you had sort of a change there of focus, I guess, or something when you were working on that MBA. So maybe again, what kind of sparked your interest, or you know, was that focus directly thinking nonprofit, or were there some other things in line there that then directed you into the world of nonprofit?
Yeah, so I mean, I was fortunate enough to, you know, start an internship while I was getting my MBA, and I kind of was a part of this team that we have here at Wine to Water before, you know, getting a job here. And I just kind of saw the culture, I saw the mission, you know, it's definitely something bigger than myself. And I can't explain, you know, what happened, but I was definitely on a corporate route. Like I knew, hey, as soon as I graduate, I'm gonna move to a big city, get a big job, and, you know, focus on making money and progressing in that career. But I was also a little old, like I was old enough to where a few of my friends, like people I knew, were already in that life. And, you know, I heard experiences from them. Like I heard their time working, you know, 60 hours a week, not much of a social life, you know, a lot of things that they valued prior to the job were no longer valued. And I was just like looking at my life and looking at what I wanted. And for that time being, you know, I decided, hey, you know, I want certain things. I want to work in a good environment. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. I want to be able to travel. I want a little bit of flexibility with my work hours. You know, there was a lot of factors that were not monetary that went into my decision. And yeah, it was kind of one of those decisions like, for the time being, I can make this work. And I've continued to make it work until now. So, you know, the corporate route isn't ever like out of my mind or anything like that. But, you know, for right now, you know, this is where I want to be.
Wonderful. And Porter, how about you? What maybe sparked your path to, you know, head into the military and to stay, you know, those kinds of things? What can you share with us?
Sure. Well, you know, I went to college at the height of the Afghan war in 2009. And so, you know, I joined ROTC and jumped into this, you know, knowing that I was going to deploy. So that was part of the goal, you know, to a desire to serve and be a part of that. And then, you know, to the other side of things is the military offered a lot of opportunity to travel, see different parts of the country, see different parts of the world, things like that. And, you know, what I jumped into, it seemed like I was jumping onto another team. Army is kind of one big team, and it's like a team sport because you have to work together to accomplish anything we want to do. So that's kind of where I found what I enjoyed. It was really the people that I was with, and that's kind of what got me into it when I was in college. And then I guess, you know, my initial commitment was about 4 years. And I decided to stay because I had a lot of good leaders. I was very fortunate to work for a lot of good leaders who I guess I kind of aspired to be like and to be in their position one day. And so part of that's what kept me around, and some opportunities and things I got to do and experience kept me around. And then, I mean, it's really the people, people, opportunity to serve and help others is, I mean, that's ultimately what your role as an officer is. So I've really enjoyed what I've done, and it's a different challenge and different. I mean, it changes every assignment. It's kind of the nice thing about the military is you don't get stuck doing the same thing for a certain amount of time. So you know, when you're in leadership and command positions, you know, you'll start out, you know, in charge of about 40 folks, have 40 subordinates, and then like my last job, I just came off of command of 150. So it's, you know, it kind of ebbs and flows, and now I instruct, you know what I mean? So it's just completely different, some of the opportunities that you have. And that's kind of what's kept me into is just different sides of the military with, you know, the operational and now, you know, instruction type stuff. So that's what's really kept me in, at least this far.
Well, I'll put this out there maybe to anyone to start with, but how will, if, you know, students are out there working on a business degree, and of course, various options are out there within that area, but how will they be able to maybe use a business degree? How will a business degree help them to be successful if they're thinking about, you know, going kind of into one of these types of industries?
Yeah, I'll go. So that was actually one of the things that kept me around when I was getting my internship here at Wine to Water. I quickly discovered, you know, this nonprofit, you know, is a business, and that was one misconception that I had before coming in. You know, I just kind of thought, oh, nonprofit. I mean, people work for free, people volunteer, but it's you know, it's not that. You know, we have people on salary, people, you know, get insurance. You know, me being the director of finance, I mean, we have different revenue streams. We have, you know, a classic P&L, just like any other business would. And that's attractive. So, you know, and I'm sure all these other alternative careers, you know, they're the same way. You know, everything operates like a business, and it's cool that I can bring what I learned at the College of Business into this environment. So it's just like a different. I look at things a little bit differently than some other folks do here at work, and you know, it keeps things interesting. So yeah, I would just say you can look at any kind of career path as definitely as a business, and help it grow.
Yeah, I agree. If I could piggyback off of what David said, I think the value of a business degree is it offers you a business perspective. that's the value in any degree, right? If you get a degree in philosophy, well, you get a philosophical perspective, which can be valuable too. Like David said, everything in the world, for the most part, or at least in Western society or most societies, does operate in a business-like function. You have a certain amount to work with. You got to work within that budget. Try to whatever your service or product you produce. So I think just getting that general understanding will serve you well and give you general information you can take anywhere. One thing just to add in there is, like, before I ended up where I was back in high school, I think I had some interest in going into law enforcement, and actually never thought about a criminal justice degree. I was still going to do a business degree. That's what I came into college. Part of my mind was, because if I got hurt on the line of duty, well, you could fall back on a business degree. You can go and work just about anywhere.
Yeah, so the Army doesn't have as a traditional business approach as I think the other two and some of the other alternatives. But I'll tell you, you guys don't need to undervalue the experience and repetitions you guys will get, doing group work, working together as a team, researching, resourcing, solving problems, developing your critical thinking. Because ultimately, I know in these other fields, but in our field, problem solving and working with others is how you accomplish anything. And the reps and the experience you get in the Walker College of Business will help you no matter where you go. And most things work as a team and in finding solutions to complex problems. And I know that's what you guys will, that's what you would bring to the table in my industry. So.
Wonderful. David, you alluded to this a little bit earlier, but what do you all feel are the benefits and rewards that maybe you found or that you see in other roles within your industries of pursuing a role within this maybe less traditional path of what somebody might come into the business school thinking they're going to do? Benefits and reward, things that you found rewarding. And Porter, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I think everything's like, you get out what you put in. And I think even if there are things that you don't expect, a lot of times if you keep an open mind, you will exceed your expectations. And really it's getting to work with a diverse group of people, help people, travel, work together to achieve things that are important, especially when it comes to training or going to a combat zone, preparing yourself and your unit and everything, for those things that you're asked to do. And, I think that's one of the kind of the neat things about, at least about the Army, is you get a lot of different opportunity to use your whole self, not just your mind, but also your body, to really work with others to push people to be better and really accomplish, really, really good things at times.
Okay. Anyone else want to share what you feel like you've received as benefits and rewards, or what you see others receiving as benefits and rewards in your areas?
I think for me, it offered me a position that I really enjoyed in an industry that I was having a hard time finding that position in. So when you think of insurance, out of school, you tend to either go the producer route with the brokers. You go work for a brokerage in a production role of some sort, or support role to the brokers, or you go the carrier side, the insurance company, and you help underwrite things. I got to be honest with you, when I was doing my internships, I did 2 internships with the bank while I was in school. One was particularly insurance focused, and I never quite did find that thing that I wanted to specifically do. I liked the role of the broker from the advice and consultation they were able to give clients, but that's if you're a good broker. And there's, like I said, there's good and bad out there. And you got that heavy pressure of the sales that comes with that. Well, I wanted to be able to help either a group of people or somebody or an institution without as much of that sales portion of it. And well, this came up as a risk manager here. We oversee the insurance portfolio, but that's 10% of the job. The rest is to work with our campus partners, interview them, help find their objectives, see what's in the way, and help bring that back up to leadership to give them information that they can make their decisions off of. Now that's more so where I want this department to, you know, actually be than where we are currently, again, being a team of one. But that is a difficult position to find in the traditional insurance path. It might take you a lot longer to get to the point where you're the enterprise risk manager at BMW or, you know, any other entity. So plus I always enjoyed the college setting. I like the connection, something about, you know, the vibes that the youth also bring, and getting to come back and do a job that, if you break it down, it's really just about thinking ahead, thinking smart, and working with a lot of people. Like Porter mentioned, David mentioned, it's all people oriented. I mean, that's how society works. That's half of it, if not 75% of it. And just getting to come back to Boone, I mean, it was a really beautiful kind of unexpected outcome. And so, yeah, for me, it allowed me to do a job that I was having a hard time pinpointing in the private sector, and at a place that I really wanted to try to be at.
David, you kind of already touched on some of these things that you felt were maybe some of the benefits that you found. Anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I have a few little more details. So I would just say, you know, like I was just asking, I'm always asking myself, you know, what I want. And, you know, initially what I wanted going to this nonprofit was, okay, I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself with a good team, and I wanted to travel. My MBA was a focus in international business, and I saw the opportunity with travel. We have like 5 field offices throughout the globe, and you know, I saw that, and so I saw the big picture, but I didn't see you know, the route I was going to take to get there. So I didn't get caught up on the details of that initially. So I interned for a full year in the international programs department. So I was working directly with the field offices, and I liked that. And you know, when I graduated and the position was offered to me, it was in the finance department. So like the beautiful thing about getting a business degree, like I was easily able to connect the two. And that was why I opened up a position for myself. So I would never consider myself a finance person, or I do now, but back then I was not a finance guy. I hated accounting, but I was decent at it. And it's something that you can grow. And if I can always see the bigger picture, you know, I can have fun with that. And is it something that I was going to enjoy? So, you know, that's always a question for me. You know, for me personally, I'm not going to get a job that I'm not going to enjoy. And that was probably the biggest thing when my perspective changed. You know, I saw a lot of people doing jobs that they weren't happy with. And then, you know, I never sold myself short on like what it is I wanted. So one example, you know, and you get your foot in the door somewhere, and like you work hard and you prove yourself, you know, you can make opportunities that you want. So when COVID hit, you know, all my international travel just stopped, which I wasn't a big fan of. So I came to my boss and I said, well, hey, I'm about to start working remotely. And they were cool with it. I actually was able to build a van out, and I traveled all around the United States, and, you know, made it happen. And now I actually work remotely. I'm living full-time in Colorado. So I still, you know, have my home base here in Boone, and I'm actually in Boone right now. Get to travel back and forth, but, you know, just I set myself up with, hey, what do I want? And if I'm going to stay with this organization, you know, how am I going to make that happen? And you know, there's plenty of benefits that you can create for yourself outside of the amount of money or advancement. So just stay open-minded.
Absolutely. Good. Definitely good thoughts to share. How about maybe we'll go to the opposite side of that. And you may not have, but have you experienced any drawbacks or things that maybe you have given up because of choosing sort of the industry or path that you're on? And if so, kind of what are those drawbacks or things that you may have given up, if any? Anybody want to start with that one?
Sure, I'll start. You know, I think it really comes down to what you want to do and what you enjoy doing. But for me, I mean, in the Army or in the military at large, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, Marines, you know, your duty stations could be anywhere in the world or anywhere in the country. So really, you know, if you were really dead set on living close to home or in one particular location for your whole life, you know, maybe, you know, there are options to serve, maybe in the Guard or Reserve, but I mean, really, the only drawback that I've seen, and I haven't really experienced, but I've seen through a couple others, is, you know, living really far away from family for about, you know, two or so years. But again, that stuff's all temporary. And, you know, if anything, I mean, I think that's really, really a positive for most folks, getting to travel and do stuff like that while they're young. But, you know, that can be a drawback for some folks. But otherwise, I don't really have anything negative about it, to be honest with you. I think if I did, I probably wouldn't still be in uniform right now. So,
right. Anyone else have any, either that they've personally experienced, or it could be something that maybe you have seen with others as well? But anything else to add?
Something I'll share that is not per se like something you need to expect if you were to go this route, but just maybe something when an opportunity comes up. I am married, and my wife and I had bought a house in Greenville, South Carolina, I think in 2020. At that time, we didn't have any plans of moving. I wasn't looking at App for work. And when this came about, it was one of those, you know, there's no secret, the housing market's been insane in the last year, if not more. And I guess the challenge I've faced is I've actually rent a place in Boone. I stay here Monday through Friday. Monday morning, I drive up from Greenville. That's almost 3-hour drive. Friday after work, 5 o'clock comes around, hopping in the car and driving back. That's something that I think if you get a family going earlier on, and for us, we have 3 dogs, and we live out in the country. We have some more animals other than that. It's hard to find a place in Boone that's a rental that will help, or that would accept all that, you know. And then trying to buy a house, well, that's a personal financial decision that you need to, for us, we need to make sure it's the right time, right place, right price, except, you know, et cetera. And so sometimes when an opportunity comes up, you do have to make that assessment between you and your family of what is it that we are willing to do and sacrifice in order to take advantage of this opportunity, because the opportunity may not always come in a perfect little package just worked out exactly for you.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. David, anything else?
Yeah, I would just say with drawbacks, it's all about perspective. So, you know, there's a lot of times that I've had to change my perspective in this career. You know, I can easily say, oh, well, I got my MBA, I should be making X amount of dollars. Oh, I got an MBA, I should own a house by now. You know, stuff like that. But, you know, you always come back to the why, you know, why you're in the nonprofit world, you know, the bigger answer. So, you know, and it's just for now. You know, that's the big thing that I tell myself. Well, I've chosen this for now. You know, I'm never locked in. I'm never stuck anywhere. You know, you can always change careers if my vision in life or, you know, anything changes. So I think it's just important to have a good perspective, stay open-minded, and just, you know, stay willing to, you know, always have connections and meet people. I mean, we work with big partners in the corporate world. You know, some really big names that, you know, partner with us to enhance their corporate social responsibility and reduce the carbon footprint. So, you know, I make all these connections in the corporate world, and, you know, you never know when one day you might decide to change it up. So it's good to just, you know, stay positive in times where, you know, finances might be tight, but other than that, you know, it's what do I value? Do I value this work environment and it's what it gives me more, or do I value the money more? So that's just something I struggle with, like, you know, every other month or so.
Yeah. Well, and if I can add a little bit to that, because David's brought up money and I brought up money, you know, while originally my major was heavily influenced by just access to resources, part of my career change was trying to focus more on things I valued, the type of culture I valued, the time with family, the work environment. Am I enjoying what I'm doing? And so just speaking to what David said, I feel like, you know, it depends on your personality. Not everybody's this way, but I think if you could be making a ton of money and hate what you do, and you may find yourself spending a lot of that money trying to make up for the unhappiness or that void that you feel during the work week. I mean, it's inevitable. We spend most of our time, our waking hours at work if you work a 40-hour work week. And, you know, I came from a Hispanic background. My parents, we came as immigrants. I came from Ecuador to the US when I was 8. I saw how hard they worked for how little bit money. You know, my mom was working at the mall's food court. She'd pick me up after school. I'd go hang out there until she got off of work until, you know, 9 or 10. So I had a different value on money than other people may have. And that's not bad or good. But I guess what I'm trying to get at is at some point you may find yourself amending your beliefs or adjusting them. And I think that's something that today's society really struggles with for a variety of reasons, social media being one of them. You put out your opinion on some said matter once, you feel like you're bound to that for the rest of your life, because going back on it, you know, you might get called a hypocrite. Well, I don't care what social media says or whatever the culture says right now. The natural path of life is to continue to change and evolve, whether you want to or not. I mean, inevitably, you're not going to be the same person at 30 that you were at 20. I mean, it's nearly impossible. And so, yeah, I think that's something. Postgraduate depression is a real thing that people experience that colleges, including App, doesn't really talk about. So if you find yourself out there and you've been given a solid effort and you're not happy doing what you're doing, you owe it to yourself to make that change. Believe me, and again, it goes down to your particular value system and what that is. But I think, like David and Porter have spoken to, just keep an awareness of the things that matter to you. For me, I was somebody that I didn't really know those things about myself. Like I knew I needed to survive, but I didn't know what outside of that I wanted when I was, you know, just starting out my career. I find myself getting to know myself better later in life. And so I just share that in case there's people here who find themselves in that position at some point.
Absolutely. Well, and for those of you who are trying to, you know, sort some of those things out now, I think, again, it's going to evolve and change, and some of that does come with experience and time. But as career coaches, we can also, you know, help have some conversations about values and what that might look like related to paths that you're on, either with a major or, you know, with career kind of goals. So definitely reach out or to others to help with that perspective too. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up for us. I'm going to put this out here just so people know though. So it looks though like all of you are surviving and do have a salary with the paths that you're on. So I think one of the things that students sometimes think or say is, well, if I am not doing that corporate path or, you know, on that corporate ladder, I'm not going to make enough money, or I'm not going to have enough money. So you kind of touched on some of that, but any other, you know, pieces of wisdom or thoughts related to the monetary side of maybe a little bit different route?
I'll let myself go last because I've been hearing my voice quite a bit.
I'll just talk kind of big picture military. So all the military and, you know, government stuff that's public, you know, you can research all that. You know, starting salary for a young officer is about, you know, 40-ish thousand. But the thing about working for the government is usually you have really good, you know, allotments and benefits. So, you know, most officers get about 25,000 additional in allotments and things like that. So you're looking at mid 60s, and you progress about, you know, every rank about 20,000 as you go on and so forth. And again, not getting too deep into it because it is all online, but with like federal work, military, you do get very good benefits and, additional compensation as well. I say kind of on the flip side, it's a set fixed rate. And so, you don't get paid overtime or, so when you're looking at kind of like, your monetary compensation versus how much you work and things like that, it's always going to be fixed as you continue to progress. So that's kind of how it works in the military and the government, things like that.
Yeah. So I guess I just look at other benefits, like it's mentioned, like I already said too, just, there was definitely a change in my perspective and the way I attacked, my personal budgets, and which, budgets I learned in College of Business, so it's kind of like, all right, well, I can still have this life that I want, but I just have to adjust, my expenses and plan a little differently than that original picture that I had in my head, or, the standard. But, I wouldn't be here where I'm at if there weren't additional benefits. So like our insurance, for example, is fully covered. I know a lot of people in corporate jobs, they still have to pay at least, 150 to, $300 a month with their insurance. We have a pretty lax, holiday, days off policy. So, I don't really have to jump through any hoops to get some extra days off if I'm if I'm needing to, or I don't, some days I don't work a typical 9 to 5, so like there's all these other benefits that I value that, really add up with that difference of money. And two, like I've always, had another kind of side hustle as well. So, this flexibility that I get with this job, it allows me to do other things. And, some of those things can bring some extra cash in the door, so.
From Maureen, I want to make sure I understand your question correctly. You're just talking about, students being concerned about their ability to basically how much it takes for them to survive and make for themselves out there in the real world, right?
Yeah, I think that there's sometimes a misconception, whether it be, education,
right,
nonprofit, even military, that they are going to be sacrificing a lot, or, like you said, I think even with nonprofits, some people think that they're rarely going to get paid any money at all. So just kind of focusing on, that what that might look like if they are going to be able to have a salary and survive in these different paths.
I think if any of the students on the listening in right now are currently renting their own apartment, buying their own food, if they're self-sufficient right now, you got a good idea of what it costs to live. A lot of your lifestyle will also, the cost of it will really truly be up to you and what your standards are. You can make up, there's no doubt why in this country there's so many doctors and lawyers that are over their heads in debt, because they can't even keep up with their own lifestyle. They live so lavishly, they can't, with a $300,000 salary, they still can't afford it. So let's just get that clear. Money won't buy you happiness. That's one thing I've learned, but I've also been on the other end. Like I said, we came here as immigrants. I know too that a shortage of money or having too little causes some real stresses. And so I like that sweet spot. Let's be realistic. I'm not gonna try to play around and say money doesn't matter. It does, but you have an overwhelming amount of you get to choose what that's going to look like for you, unless you go out and have kids too young, or because that's, my parents had me at 18. That's kind of what their reality looked young. It's like finances, planning, all that was kind of out the window when you have kids really early. And we may have students like that right now. You just got to, understand that's your reality and work through it. But get an idea of what things cost. One thing I would encourage you as students is I know it's inevitable to some extent, but try to keep your student loans as low as possible. You guys, one thing I can tell you with pretty good certainty is that you guys have no idea what it costs to live out there. Whatever job salary you think of, go ahead and take 30% off of that salary. And that will likely be your take-home pay. After taxes and other things are accounted for, 30% has been a number that I have found to be a safe bet. And even then, get out there. Don't go buy that new car right away when you get that new job. Drive around that beater you're driving. Wait to see what life really is costing you. Wait to see what the cost of living in that specific city is going to cost. That'll vary too. And then depending where in that city you live. One of the biggest mistakes I made coming out of college, I was making $55,000 a year or 52. And I thought I was rich. I thought I'd made it. And nobody in my family had, I think, broken like 40 or something, And I just wasn't taking into account taxes and things of that nature. My first apartment I got in Raleigh, North Carolina, because I had one weekend to pick it out. It was kind of a last minute thing, was $1,255 a month. Never again. I was so house poor. I was 4 minutes from downtown, but with no money to go downtown. I mean, it didn't make no sense. I bought a brand new car because I was tired of driving around a 20-year-old, Ford. So I went and got it was 16 when I graduated, when I got a Honda Civic. Still nothing too crazy or lavish, but it was a new car. I learned from every single one of those decisions. And one of the reasons I learned from them is because it hurt. Like when you make that kind of decision, you have to live through that commitment, whether it's a car loan or something. I mean, you just kind of realize the weight and the gravity of those things. And I'd say don't make too many of those decisions before you have a good understanding of the rest of life. Get out there, live humbly for a year to two, and then guess what? You will be freer than you ever expected, because you don't like what you're doing, you want to change things up, you don't have a huge mortgage or a huge car payment that's basically keeping you at that job you hate. That's the beauty of it. If you don't have all of that weight dragging you down, you can change what you're doing. You can move around, especially if it's just you, especially if you haven't got a family that relies on you just yet. I mean, if you're not in that position when you get out, maybe, I understand everybody has different circumstances. Some people, I had a friend in college that was sending money home. He was working crazy hours he was the breadwinner of his house while he was a student. So I understand, but try to be cognizant of that and keep your debts as low as possible, so that as you learn and you figure out what it is you want to do and maybe what you don't want to do and adjust, because that's really what it's going to be. If you think you're coming out of college, I thought that I was going to be where the company I got with after college till I retired. That's what I thought. And that was not the case after 5 years. And so help yourself maintain your own freedom by keeping yourself free of, financial debts. And then you can decide for yourself how much it's going to cost for you to live. But do that without the pressure of already having established those heavy debts and having to make decisions to feed that monster that you created, if that makes sense.
Great
Hey,
advice.
I meant to add one thing. I think David kind of hit it. So in the military, you get a pretty good salary, pretty good wages as an officer, but you do get 30 days paid leave a year. So your time off, like that's something that I also considered, and kind of, keeps me drawn back as your paid time off, which is nice. So it's 30 days a year. And then most months you get a 4-day weekend, which I didn't expect when I joined. So like this coming weekend, Easter weekend, we would get Friday and Monday off. And it's usually like that at least once every single month, in addition to the time off you take. So just wanted to add that one in there.
Yeah, lots of value in those things to think about.
Right, quick too. So something that was touched on, Boris, I'd mentioned like, hey, figure out what I want with work and with a job and all that. But also I had to figure out what I wanted outside of work. So like the position I'm in, I wouldn't be able to travel around in a van. I wouldn't be able to like move and work remotely in Colorado or do a lot of the things that I'd do if I was, locked down. And there's a lot of things in life besides, family or kids that can also lock you down. So I've always, kind of avoided that. getting locked down. So that's a reason I was able to do what I'm doing. Because I would not be in this position. I would not be able to work for a nonprofit at this with my salary if I had a wife and kids to provide for. It just wouldn't be in the cards.
So lots of things to explore and discover. We're getting close to our time, so I wanted to maybe just give each of our panelists a chance to maybe give a final wrap-up of if there's any skills, experiences, tips that you think someone should really consider if they're thinking about a role within one of these industries to make themselves really marketable, or final piece of advice kind of along those lines. So Boris, do you want to start with that?
Absolutely. I'll keep it brief so that everybody gets some time. I think one thing I've noticed serving on several search committees is interview skills. So interview skills, as well as awareness of soft versus hard skills, I think is really crucial for students to understand, as it's inevitable that at the beginning of your career, you may not have as many of the hard skills. You may not know all the specific details. What you got to understand is that you can learn all the hard skills. What employers really seek, and what I think, as higher as you go up in the career, those soft skills is what's going to serve you well. And many of you have them. What you lack is your ability to communicate that to your employer. So my piece of advice, practice your interviewing like there's no tomorrow. You can be the most qualified, perfect candidate for a job, but you just can't get it across. And it's awkward speaking with you, and the air stale. Being on the other side of the and maybe you're long-winded, being on the other side of the interview, I can tell you nobody is looking to make you nervous. They don't want you to feel scared. They want to see you for you, because an interview is a two-way interview. I mean, you're looking to see, is this a good fit for me to the organization? And is this organization a good fit for me? So how do you get to that place of being calm going into an interview? Practice. People say to me all the time, because I have, I know a lot of people on this campus, oh, I really struggle with interviews. Well, that's good, because you can work on that. Nobody's born good at interviewing. So just practice it. And Maureen, I know your group has tons of resources that help me out. And those are still the same fundamentals I use. I mean, I've just built off of the resume you guys helped me build when I was a student. So please utilize those services that the university has while you're here, because once you get out of here, there ain't that many services and resources like there are while you're at a college campus.
Thanks for the plug. I agree. Definitely practice them. We often have opportunities to do it, not just with us, but also with recruiters, employers, alumni, other people. And so take advantage of that. Other tips? Let's see, Porter, you want to any final thoughts?
Sure. I really think just a couple things. I mean, especially for depending on what you want to do. I mean, I feel like all of you are looking for a particular challenge, whether you know what that is or not. But look for that thing that really excites you, and kind of think about it that way. But I tell you, things to remember and that'll set you apart. Work hard. Okay, like you're always going to have to work hard. Something that you need to learn how to do if you can't do it now is learn how to accept honest feedback. Okay, learn how to accept it, and then learn how to give it, and take that constructive criticism and apply it to make yourself better and make your team better. And then care. I mean, I tell you, I think what really sets a lot of folks apart that I see is people who genuinely care, not just about other people, but about the work they're doing, and helping, your team or people actually achieve what you're trying to do. And I think, if you don't care about what you're doing, you should probably figure out something else. So that's probably an indicator of which direction you need to go with certain things. But really, I mean, at the end of the day, for all you trying to figure this stuff out, there's a million different things you can try to do. And, the way I kind of look at things, I try to keep a kind of a no regrets type mentality. So generally what I've found is, and the way I think of it is, if I look back, 50 years from now, and I think, okay, am I going to be happy with the decisions I made and what I pursued to do? And if I don't think I am, then I kind of adjust with what I want to do and what I want to pursue. And I tell you, most of the things that I regret are the things I didn't try to do, not the things that I did. So I'd kind of leave you with that as far as, going for the things that get you excited and you're passionate about, and do that stuff while you're young. Because once you have family, have kids, whatever, it gets a lot harder to do that stuff. So don't be afraid to go for it. That's what I tell you.
Great. Thanks, Porter. And David, any final thoughts or pieces of advice?
Yeah, I would say one thing that sets myself apart is my communication skills. I'm not one to message people all the time, but I am one to always message back, like almost immediately. I can't tell you the importance of somebody who, responds quickly. I think of other people in my organization, and I think of, that's like one of the first things that comes to mind. It's like, man, that guy's on it. Like, even I might not even be on it, but I at least replied, or at least said, hey, I'm going to get to this. And, that kind of sets the tone. So, work on those communication skills. Don't be afraid or overanalyze your emails. Like, just send the thing out and like move on to the next. Because me personally, I don't really care if I see a typo or something in somebody's email or a mistake. Like, people make mistakes. Don't feel like, you got to have the perfect email for somebody or anything. But I guess my other piece of advice would be just stay open-minded. Don't ever for myself, I just don't ever get in a position where I'm locked in. You never know what doors might open and where life might take you. Always open to change and open to adapt. So that's probably my biggest advice.
Great. Well, I want to thank our panelists so much. I know we are up upon the time that we asked for your time with us, but I do want to open it up really quickly. If anyone that's out there, or your students in the audience, have a quick question, you can unmute and ask that. And then I'm going to also say I would imagine that our panelists would probably be willing to answer further questions, maybe if you wanted to do an email or something like that. If our panelists are willing to do that, you can either share your email in the chat or let us know. We can provide that for people. But are there any students that have a question that maybe hasn't been addressed yet? Keep my eye out here for any cameras coming on or mics coming on.
And y'all don't be shy. This is a good time to ask a legitimate concern. Like, we're people too. I'm hitting up the skate park after this. It's like we like to have fun too. We're not much different than you. Just a couple of years sets us apart. And
I have something to ask the group to kind of prompt it, I guess. To you guys out there, what holds you back from really thinking, man, I want to do this, but I'm afraid or nervous or don't think I can do this? Like, really, what holds some of you back from really thinking, hey, I want to pursue something I want to pursue, or even consider or entertain an idea?
Great question.
If I could speak on that, I've gotten a lot of the advice that you would give Porter about when you're young and sort of taking advantage of opportunities and finding what makes you happy and then flourish through what makes you happy. I think for people my age and kids in college, it's just like everyone's chasing dollar signs, I think, too much, especially in the business field.
Yeah, in the college business.
And I think that's become a real issue where I jokingly say that I had buddies, I called them Google students, because what they do is they Google their major and their average salary, and they say, oh, I'm going to be making this out of college. And it's like, yeah, well, you don't know that. I think for me, the more I progressed in college, the more I sort of found out that I just want to chase what makes me happy, but I'm scared of not being able to provide for a family one day.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. I think probably some of these other guys can hit on it too. But you know, when you're about to graduate, you know, you have a world of opportunity, and so there's nothing that says, hey, I can't take this job doing this, or I can't take this doing that and trying it, or I can't get an internship, or you know, work this, work that, because like, you know, family, things like that. I don't know your personal situation, but things like that are down the road. I never really thought about stuff like that when I first graduated, because for me, it was just me. And I wanted to see, hey, can I do this? Because this is what I want to do. And I promise as things go along, kind of like what David said, you will adapt to your opportunities and you will figure out solutions to your own, you know, whatever life throws at you and what you try to do. But, you know, you only get to do this once, and you only have certain opportunities to do things once. And that's like, I'm serious. You know, I talk to so many folks who are like, man, I wish I'd have done this. I wish I'd have gone into this business or this, you know, this service or whatever. And really what stopped them was just their own fear of things down the road. And I tell you, just don't let that stop you. Just if you want to do something, go for it. If you don't like it, okay, I'll try something else. Because you'll figure it out. Like, have the confidence in yourself that you'll be able to figure that out, and that you will be able to find a solution to what you're trying to do. If any of you guys are there.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah. So I can't tell you how many people that I respect in the business world who are, you know, I mean, a lot of them are kind of nearing retirement at this point. Have told me like, man, I wish I'd done, you know, what you did at that age. So like, now is the time. Like, for myself, I did not, you know, get locked down, and you know, now is the time to pursue what you want and just work hard. It doesn't matter, like, you know, like Porter mentioned, just you work hard. When that time comes, if you have to make a change, if you have to start providing, you'll do it. So don't fear for that. Like, you'll be able to provide, no problem. And you know, for me, it was like, I mean, still to this day, like, don't feel like you gotta have it figured out. Because like, I mean, some of these big guys that I've talked to, you know, mentors and stuff, I mean, they say that they still don't have it figured out. And I view them like, oh, of course they have it figured out. They got X, Y, and Z, and they're, you know, but people don't have it figured out, and don't feel like you gotta plan your life out and go a certain route. Just enjoy the journey.
Yeah, I think
Great point. Great.
Having some sort of belief system is important. I'm not pitching religion here, but find something for yourself that you can turn back to and look to. And like these guys mentioned, fear is going to be a component on a daily. I think challenges are going to be there no matter whether you choose money or happiness. It's just going to be a different set of challenges. So you just got to have that kind of mentality that this life, I mean, the Bible says that it's going to be full of turmoil. There's going to be challenges in it. And I think I would agree with that, no matter which way you go. So knowing that, you know, what is it you're going to seek? And that's okay. Like I said, it's all, you can amend your beliefs. You can try something, reroute, change it. But truly, I mean, like Porter said, you probably regret the things you don't do more than anything. Try to hone in on that. And, you know, we can all pitch our own advice, but sometimes I feel like it goes in one ear and out the other. One thing I would encourage you, man, if you're open to it, is that while you're here at school, you have something that you have access to therapy and counseling. And that's something I'm starting to take advantage of. And 5 years ago, I was somebody who did not respect mental health whatsoever. But I feel like there's a lot of things I haven't processed throughout my life because I've been making decisions out of necessity and in a survival mode. And, you know, at some point it just hits the fan. So it's now or later. Just would offer that as something to maybe consider to help explore a little bit more about yourself, understand yourself and what those obstacles that are in your way might be.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And I think too, any path or decisions that you make, you're going to gain skills along that journey that then are going to help you if you do need to pivot and change to something that's going to allow you to reach new goals. So there's, you're not, if you go a certain path, it doesn't lock you into that path, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to still continue to learn and grow skills that are going to help you for that next step. So. All right, I know a lot of people have had to leave us. Are there any other burning questions out there that really need to be said for the group? Because I know I want to let our panelists get to their lives as well. Well, I thank you all again so much. Our panelists, I really appreciate all the wonderful advice that you've given and your willingness to do that, your willingness to kind of be a resource for these students, and both these that have been on the call as well as those that will watch this recorded. Again, students that are left, thank you very much for joining us, and be sure that you take some of this advice to heart and utilize the resources that we have here in Business Career Services to help you with those questions and those steps. But thank you so much.